And we're live.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We asked for approval of the agenda, and there are 3 additions to this evening's agenda. Any disclosure of interest? Hearing none, then we have a delegation this evening, and we shall let them present. Hey, Wendy, how you doing? Terry?
Hello?
Yes, you may begin your delegation.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Randy, bye. Bye.
Giving us an opportunity. My name is Terry Burkett. I'm the director of the foundation. And I'm very, very honored to have Mayor Wendy Landry with me. She's on our campaign cabinet for the cardiovascular surgery campaign. So I'm hoping everybody had an opportunity to review or watch the campaign video that we sent you, the link to.
Yep.
Awesome. I think that really puts it in perspective of what we're doing and why we need cardiovascular surgery programs here in Northwestern Ontario. So I'm gonna start. But first of all, Wendy, can you just share sort of why you're involved with the campaign? Because I know you're a very, very busy woman and took some time to help us with this also.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Terry. So, hi, everyone. Very nice to see you all. I miss you very much. I wish we could all get together. Obviously, this is seeming like it's going to last a little bit longer, but I'm really, thank you very much for having Terry and I come to visit with you and your council tonight. This is a campaign that I'm very, very passionate about. If you saw the Chronicle Journal on the weekend, you would have saw the story of my dad and my mom telling their story of going through heart surgery and having to travel to Hamilton. And it was very, very challenging times for us. And, you know, as you'll see in the presentation, this affects Indigenous people as well, but to a great degree. So this really hits home for me as we've been personally affected. You know, the campaign is something that I think as municipal leaders we can participate in and donate on behalf of our households. And you'll see in the slides where this really equates to the amount of a cup of coffee per household a year when we talk about donating in some circumstances from our municipalities on behalf of those that maybe don't have the ability to do so. But this is an opportunity for us to have this surgery home in our own territory, in our own district, so that our patients and our homeowners don't have to travel so far during difficult times. And I think you saw the video you said, so you saw that some of the stories there. But Pat and I have donated a total of $10,000 to this campaign, which we were grateful that, you know, that sounds like a lot of money and a really huge donation, but really it equates to $2,000 a month over a year over a 5-year commitment. And you know, we've worked it out to have it as a weekly withdrawal from our bank account. So we you know, really it works out to be very easy to do. And Shunya as well made a donation on behalf of the residents of Shunya. So it's something that I'm hoping that the municipal leaders in the district will understand the importance of this. And Terry will show you the presentation that explains why we have to raise this money and why we need to do this.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. Okay, so well, I lost you guys.
We can still see you.
Hear me though?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So
it's because you're sharing your screen, that's why.
Okay, there's basically two programs to this, and one is the cardiac part of it, and one is the vascular part of it. And I'm very, very proud to say that the vascular side of this program is up and running. We've recruited 3 vascular surgeons to the hospital, and I think for probably about 10 to 15 years around there that we didn't have any vascular surgeons, and those patients were going to Toronto for services. And if you could, especially up in here in our region, especially with diabetes and cardiac diseases, you'll see patients losing limbs, and every day when I step out of my office, I see somebody in a wheelchair with a missing limb. And our whole goal is to making sure that we can save those limbs. And that's what our vascular surgeons do. Not only do that, but they do interventional cardiac aorta. I'm missing the names of it. I'm sorry, I'm lost right here. Okay, also they do aortic fistulas for renal patients. But anyways, all in all, we're saving many lives and saving a lot of people having to travel down to Toronto for this surgery. On the cardiac side, it's a bigger program, and this also requires a separate bill to add on to the hospital. Right now, we send probably about 500 people away for open heart surgery to Toronto, and now, especially during COVID, it just brings it back home that we really need to have this program here in northwestern Ontario. It's bad enough for patients in our region having to come to Thunder Bay, but then they would have to fly again to Toronto. This is a huge program, and this is to our needs. It's probably going to be about an $80 million program. When we first started this, it's probably around $35 million with the program going to be within the footprint of the hospital, but unfortunately, due with ministry standards, we are now going to be a separate build. And why do we need that? Well, we need new ORs. We need a new 6-bed step-down unit. We need a 14-bed coronary care unit. And plus, all this equipment for cardiac surgery is massive. We need like 2 heart-lung machines, and so the total, when I say $80 million, about $12 million of that is going to be worth of equipment, and that's what the hospital and the foundation is raising funds for, and that's what we're responsible for. And the build of the hospital is split with the Ministry of Health. That's about 90-10, so 90% of the construction costs would be covered by the ministry and 10% by the foundation. This is a huge economic impact to our region, not only for the building, but also this program. This program will employ about 60 full-time employees on top of everything else. So a great economic impact to this whole region. And that's for how right there. Is there any questions right now in regards to this program?
Jerry, how close are we to seeing this come to fruition?
Well, right now, so we were up basically on the last leg of the campaign to raise the money that we needed for it, and then COVID hit, and we were just getting all the approvals from the ministry, and also that all stopped when COVID hit. So right now we have a team. They're flowing through operational dollars. Right now they're looking at shovels in the ground between 12 to 18 months. With the program probably not up and running for, I'm going to say, probably another 3 years from today. So
from a funding perspective, Terry, where are we at?
Pardon?
From a funding perspective, from raising the funding?
For funding, yeah, so right now we're just close to about $14 million. That was our original goal, but now that we've been pushed back and we know that their equipment needs will probably escalate, I think we're looking at probably around to raising $16 million. And we're getting there. We had a great Giving Tuesday, and our donors have come through. So raising $13 million right now from our community and region is absolutely incredible. But we can't stop now. We got to keep on going, not only for the project, but cardiac needs will never stop. And I know right now that we're already looking at at replacing the equipment in one of the cardiac cath labs. And the cardiac cath labs, like we do over 1,200 angiograms a year in in cardiac cath lab right now for people in our region and our community. So never ending. But we certainly welcome and like to ask you, the municipality of Schreiber, to help us with a gift of either $5,000 or $10,000 over 5 years. And you can see by the slide, and Wendy, you could speak to this also, of how it breaks down per household.
Yeah, so thanks, Terry. So one of the things that we did was when I was presenting, we went on a bit of a road trip before COVID and presenting to some of the municipalities, and I'm sure that some of you might have saw this presentation at the NOMA conference as well. But what we've done on each of these slides for each presentation for each municipality is break it down according to your households and to demonstrate for you so that if you need to speak to it with your taxpayers and what it equates to per household per year. So you'll see here that a $5,000 donation from Schreiber equates to $1.59 per household per year. And if you went to $10,000, it would be $3.18 per household. So this is where a lot of the municipalities budgeted it over a 5-year time period. So either $2,000 a year for 5 years or $1,000 a year for 5 years, whichever budget could handle whichever amount. It's been greatly appreciated, and we've seen as high as the town of Chapel, which I'm sorry I don't have the population, it's not very high, their population. They were super generous in giving us $25,000, so they budgeted $5,000 over 5 years, and we've seen $5,000 donations. So really we're just looking for the municipalities in whichever way that you think your budgets can handle it. But we add this slide in there so that it helps put some perspective, because I know that sometimes there's hesitation from municipalities to make donations from taxpayers' dollars.
Thank you, Wendy. I think when it comes down to it, our whole goal is to ensure that we keep patients here in our region, not having to travel to Toronto. And this is a perfect example of, hospitals not even taking, patients right now because there is no room. So what do? And people are on a wait list. And the more that we could keep in our region, the better right now. And I think this is a great program for all of us.
Well, and let's speak to the fact too that it's a life-saving situation, right? If you read the story from my parents in the paper on Saturday's paper, that it told you that his flight got delayed a few times because of weather. And my cousin who had to go down east for Southern Ontario for heart surgery as well was delayed due to weather. And that adds to the anxiety, it adds to the stress on an individual who's already demonstrating stress on their heart. And it's basically a life-saving situation. And we realize that up in the north we've had to fight for all of these different medical opportunities to have these procedures done in this part of the province. But the community has really come forward in donating to this, and I think that it's a no-brainer from my perspective that if we could help our citizens in this area have heart surgery locally, it keeps people alive, and it gives an opportunity for families to be around for support in shorter distances, right? So that's why I'm super passionate about this campaign.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation, Terry and Wendy. I'm not sure which way to look here. I guess I should look over there.
It's okay. I see you with a mask, Dave. I'm like, oh, I've never seen you with a mask.
It's been a long time since we've seen each other.
It has been, yeah, way too long, way too long. And normally if it wasn't COVID, Terry and I would be in a vehicle driving down and doing this in person. So we appreciate the opportunity to come barging in on your Zoom call.
Not a problem. We appreciate the presentation. Does anybody have any further questions for? Well, then if you have nothing else, thank you very much again, Terry and Wendy, and we appreciate the presentation, and we certainly will take it into account.
Thank you very much for considering this to all of you. And like I said, it has, you have the slide, they have the slide deck, right, Terry?
Yes, we do.
Yep.
Yeah, they have a slide presentation, okay, great. So that one slide where it breaks it down for you for per household, helps in the decision-making process. I know that it did for our municipality, and that's why with, me working with the team from the hospital, we decided to break that down for each municipality so that you could see it, and, hopefully you can work something into your budget to contribute, and, anything and everything, makes a difference, so we appreciate it ahead of time.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, everyone.
Stay safe, please.
Stay safe.
Alrighty. Okay, we will continue on with our open session. Resolution number 3-21, moved by Councillor Mullins, seconded by Councillor Stafuric. That the minutes of the council and committee of the whole meeting held December 15th, 2020 be accepted as circulated. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Resolution number 4-21, moved by Councillor Stafuric, seconded by Councillor Mullins, that the minutes of the special council meeting held December 21st, 2020 be accepted as circulated. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Resolution number 5-21, moved by Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Morrow, that council approve the quotation from Work Equipment Limited for a trackless 51-inch snow blower with sidewalk chute in the amount of $9,875, excluding shipping and applicable taxes, and a trackless rear-mounted double agitator sander in the amount of $8,175, excluding shipping and applicable taxes. All those in favor? Carried, thank you.
Just one question on that,
Yeah.
Dave, with the machinery there, like, I have to assume that various, not bids so much, but, I mean, how many different companies would, you know, where this comes from, or?
I don't think there's very many, Red, there's only one.
There's only one trackless vehicle company.
Is that right?
Like the other companies that make a machine similar, but not
Yeah.
as good a quality.
Okay. I was curious about that.
Okay, resolution number 6-21, moved by Councillor Stafuric, seconded by Councillor Mullins, that checks issued on the general bank account in the month of December 2020 in the amount of $235,444.96 for general accounts payable be approved and ratified. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Resolution number 7-21, moved by Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Mullins, that bank debt debits issued on the general bank account in the month of December 2020 in the amount of $54,591.48 for payroll be approved and ratified. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Resolution number 8-21, moved by Councillor Stafuric, seconded by Councillor Mullins, that council direct administration divest the property known as 5851-001-09301 as per the rules outlined in the Municipal Act 2001, that council declare the property as a surplus asset to be disposed of. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Resolution number 9-21, moved by Councillor Morrow, seconded by Councillor McGrath, that council direct administration divest the property known as 5851-000-001-09700 as per the rules outlined in the Municipal Act 2001. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Resolution number 10-21, moved by Councillor Mullins, seconded by Councillor Stafuric, that bylaw 1-2021, being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy and to provide for the payment of taxes and to provide for penalties and interest, be given first, second, third, and final reading and enacted. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
How much different would that, is it a big change? I don't understand. Or
Marlene?
interim tax rates.
So this is just giving the authorization that we can issue the interim tax bills for 2021, and they are based on 50% of what was charged in 2020.
So it's
So it doesn't, it's not, there isn't an increase associated with your.
same as
interim tax.
usual?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Alrighty. That brings to a close the council portion of the meeting. We'll move into the committee as a whole with the department reports. First up, CAO clerk report.
This was just a report summarizing the meeting that we had with our emergency control group. We met on January 13th to discuss the impact of the provincial emergency order on municipal operations. And overall, we're compliant with a lot of the regulation. Again, there was little new that really impacts us. Again, in terms of major impacts, again, employee screening, that's self-screening that we are going to start doing. In terms of recreation amenities, the baseball field and the outdoor rink, we're going to look at reopening those since they can actually open up. And in the report, they put a 5-person limitation. From our discussions, again, there seems to be a bit of back and forth with what people are interpreting as the limitation, but it looks like we can do a maximum of 10, so that's what we're going to be putting, a maximum of 10 for the outdoor rink and for the ballpark.
5 or 10?
10.
10.
We'll go with 10. And that's really, again, the only impact. I mean, in terms of the closure to our municipal facilities, at this point, we're expecting to maintain the closure up until Tuesday, February 16th, 2020, to just coincide with the emergency declaration. We don't know at this point whether the declaration is going to be extended for another 28 days. When it comes to, again, regulations for screening and everything that we are required to do in our municipal facilities, that's indoor facilities, it's really going to be easiest to keep things closed for the meantime. When it comes to another major decision, that's going to be the closure of the arena from a fiscal perspective, as the cost for $11,000 per month in electricity bills may offer savings of about approximately $5,000 to $7,000 a month should we choose to close the ice plant. Now, that's going to be, of course, a big decision to make, but again, there's a lot of money in terms of savings, and you have to estimate, are we going to open come February 16th? Is the provincial emergency declaration going to continue past that date? It's hard to say. It's hard to say looking at the situation for this pandemic, which is really on a weekly or daily basis that you have to look at what's going on. I don't know what's everyone's thoughts with that.
I would like to not make a decision until we know if the lockdown's extended.
Which we should
Personally.
know- Yeah, which we should know by the 11th or sooner.
Yeah.
Well, when you think of February 16th, I mean, you'd only be looking at a maximum of 4 weeks after that anyway.
Yep.
In fact, maybe even more, like just 3, maybe 4. So, that's not, is that, I don't think it's long enough to, whatever.
When were we scheduled to close anyway? March 13th? The arena?
I think it was 15th this year.
15th? March 15th?
But does that mean we have to stick to that date? Could you not push it? If we can open the
No.
arena on the 15th, could we not push it to the end of March so people can use the arena for a month and a half?
No, I don't mean, no.
Oh, I know.
No,
Yeah.
for sure.
I agree, if we
Wait till
know
the-
more
Okay.
on the 11th, then we can make a decision.
Everybody fine with that?
Yes.
Yeah, it seems to,
No.
yeah.
No, just another look at it.
Well, when?
February 11th?
Well, certainly.
Okay, so we'll wait till the 11th or sooner. They might make.
Well, I wasn't talking tomorrow when I suggested that.
Oh, no.
I mean, you know, like,
No, but I mean, the lockdown is supposed to end on the 11th. We might know by the 9th or 10th if it's going to be extended, so
Yeah, it's not that far away.
we can make a decision at that time. Is everybody fine with that?
Yeah, as soon as we find out for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Next up is the tax arrears update. Are there any questions on that for our treasurer? This was just for information purposes. Is everybody fine with that? Okay, the next one is tax write-offs for 2020. Any questions on that? The recommendation here is that we authorize the write-off of property taxes in the amount of $14,298.85. Any questions on that?
That will go to council and to vote on? How does that work?
We would pass it next meeting.
Next meeting, it'll go
Yeah.
to the council portion, right? And we'll pass it by resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
How is it, I sure don't understand, we're talking about tax write-offs for last year. Already? Like, I don't get that. What are you gonna write off?
Marlene has an answer for you, Doug.
Please.
So these are all, the majority of them have to do with changes that MPAC has put through. So MPAC is tasked with assessing property in Ontario. So, they've done that. There may be, changes that have occurred within the year for 2020.
Okay.
Where a property came back as one tax class and MPAC has decided that it should be in a different tax class.
Right.
Or there may have been requests for reconsiderations that people have put in on their properties and those minutes of settlement have come back.
Yeah.
So these are not, these write-offs are not anything that council has any real control over what happens to them.
So it's
Like-
basically impact based,
So you have to do the.
like I wasn't aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If that's impact's doing, and
Yeah, they do the changes, they're the ones, so they've decided either that there's been something wrong on the roll or there's been.
people have requested that, no doubt.
People, it may be through a request for reconsideration
Yeah.
process, and then they have minutes of settlement that they agree to, or it could be that there was
Right.
an event that occurred within the year, so it was a change in tax class that occurred. So,
Okay.
MPAC has methods where, how they can change the assessment so that people are paying what they're supposed to be paying.
Yeah.
So that's what these ones are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up is the property tax write-offs for 2021. And the recommendation is that we authorize the write-off of property taxes in the amount of $15,304.18. Any questions on that? Okay, then we move on to the budget variance report. For our information, there are no recommendations, it's for your information. Unless you have any questions of Marlene. And our Director of Operations report, status update as of January 19th. Any questions for our Director of Operations on this?
Have you, I guess you've never requested a price or anything on the wall, on the, at the rec center or anything like that? The repair work?
Oh, the up back?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, we did have a price there last year, but we didn't get it repaired at that time.
We did,
It's
eh?
around $7,000, I think, is what one fellow quoted me. I'll have to check with a couple of different companies before spring time comes around.
Yeah, I guess, so we wanna get it done, I guess we're gonna have to get it
Yeah,
looked at.
it's looking not good.
No, we took a look at it there last year too.
Yeah, it's pretty rough shape. Any other questions? Then, the next one, Director of Operations report, fuel recommendation for the year 2021.
There's a Director of Operations recommendation to extend the fuel contract with Ultramar for a year.
Yeah.
Everybody fine with that?
Yeah, it's good.
Definitely.
Even cheaper than last time, right?
Yeah. Then the CED report.
In terms of where things are with the Discovery Center, we actually received the occupation permit. I'm just confirming with insurance that everything is covered and good to go. Fenway will be coming back to complete touch-ups for remaining deficiencies and cleanup sometime in springtime. The pigeon problem continues. We're trying to find something that's not going to break the bank here, and this time I have purchased some sort of sound repellent. I'm gonna be curious to see how it works. I'm doubtful, but this was only about $50 or so. But I thought it was worth a shot at this point. Any other methods, whether we have to put pigeon spikes up there or netting. Again, we're looking at, $5,000 or so, whether it's a net gun or something, it's about $2,000, $3,000. So trying to avoid spending money, but the closer we get to our opening day for the museum, again, it means we need to amp up whatever methods we're using. It means we have to look at the fact that we have to be willing to spend some money in order to get these pigeons removed. I've been in talks again with the Director of Operations for different methodologies to tackle this problem, and he's getting some quotes.
We did.
This sound idea, did somebody recommend that? Like, has somebody had familiar with it? Or?
It's just a product on in this case it's just on Amazon, and we looked at ratings for it, and it seems to be hit or miss. Some people say it works, some people say it doesn't.
Oh.
I don't know if it's a local thing with the pigeons. Some pigeons maybe are more sensitive to noise than others. It's hard to say, but I think we're dealing with a stubborn group here. They
We did purchase traps, correct? We did purchase some traps. Are they working or?
Not working very well right at the moment, no.
No, not at the moment.
Not at the moment.
They continue to elude us.
You think if some community, I don't know how you go about it, we could get some advice. They must have the same issues in a lot of places. I don't.
You would think a couple of peregrine falcons, maybe.
Yeah.
Didn't one company say they would give a presentation, Red?
One company did offer to come down and give a presentation of why trying to get rid of them will not work.
Yeah, but that's for a city.
So that was what the presentation was about.
But
The other thing is
not a solution?
to use the exclusion with the netting and the fixed light.
It's a frustrating situation.
It is.
But we need to certainly have something concrete done before we try and open that place by summertime. So
If I can speak.
Well, we can get rid of them humanely.
But the most recommended option by the pest control companies is to put up the netting and the fixed light spikes. Is what I'm getting from the pest control companies.
okay.
Price for that was about, the spikes at least, I believe was about $10,000.
They have one price of $33,000.
There you go.
And the fixed light.
Well, then we will continue working towards a solution.
Yeah.
We have to have something, like I say, done before.
In terms of the interpretive planning, that's still on track for completion by about June. The A6 Trail, again, there's a final 400 meters of construction that we weren't able to complete last year due to all the rainfall in September. So we're aiming to complete that as well, as, again, as soon as the snow thaws. And in terms of the downtown revitalization, right now, just in terms of an update right now, tendering has been pushed back about a week or so. This is again, they just had to make some few architectural tweaks in the drawings. And our current estimated time of releasing this tender is now the first week of February. Still a competitive time for us to get it out.
The tender is for just the pavilion or everything?
Everything,
Okay.
everything, yep.
I probably asked that question a couple times, it's just confirming.
It just,
For everything.
I think I asked this every meeting. It's gonna be pigeon-proof, eh?
I'll certainly chat with the engineers and designers and
Because the designer on that pavilion, or on the rail museum, they said it was pigeon-proof and they
Yep.
put in I-beam.
Yep.
I don't know where they came from, what school they came from, but.
Right.
In this case, there is a canopy portion. It's not, obviously not the sizable canopy we have at the museum, which is huge, right? So in this case, there is a little bit of a canopy there. And I'll double check to see if it is open in any way with beams to just make sure that if possible, we can look at whatever change order we can put in to make sure that we can address that and make sure that pigeons don't roost there or stay there. I'll ask our community economic development manager to look into that.
Any other questions? We'll move on to the senior coordinator December report. Any questions on
I can give a little report on senior committee.
that? Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
We had a meeting yesterday, so our logo, that a 3x6 logo, will be placed on the front of the municipal complex below the municipal logo. That's gone out for sign creation. Bingo's ongoing, and that's well received by everyone. Chair yoga is ongoing. There'll be 10 more sessions for that. And just an update on the New Horizon grant that we received. The funding from that was distributed before Christmas, or part of it was distributed with the hampers that went out. So that was well received. There's also 13 iPads that were purchased that will be distributed through the library once the library is open again. And we currently have 258 members, so we're still growing. That'll be huge once we get going.
Yeah, very
Things
good.
we can accomplish. That's it.
Thanks very much, Dan.
And what's the, Dan, what's the idea with the iPads, just to,
Anybody that needs to access the internet, or needs to do things online, or wants to learn about the internet, or wants to learn about iPads, I mean, the library has been provided training for seniors.
but them iPads stay with the library?
Well, they're loaned out.
And well, the reason I'm asking, I've heard people say, well, I'm getting one.
They're what?
They're getting one.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, like, what are we doing? Buying iPads for people? But they're loaned out. That's
Yeah, they're just loaned out, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I think
Like a book, you gotta bring it back.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe we better have a card.
I think the late fee should be a little higher for.
And the ones they did have, I think the library had 13 of their own, and they were being well used.
Good program.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right on.
for sure. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
Next up, bylaw enforcement report. Any questions? Okay, and the next up is the public library board meeting minutes questions on that?
I see they have a radon detector now that was donated by
Mm-hmm.
Eco Superior. And, I guess that's an issue in some
Yep.
places. but,
Especially in basements, right, it tends to,
Yeah, I never ever thought about it,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
it could be a major health issue.
yep.
That's right, yes.
but,
Considering they make a lot of use of that basement, it's,
Yeah, I mean, some
Worth it.
towns are worse than others, so
Mhm.
Yep.
might be a good opportunity to see what's going on in your basement.
Okay, any other questions on that? Then we go to the fire department activity report. Any questions for the chief?
I see you had some good use of that new fire truck, Jan.
Yes, it's working out quite well.
Right away, you put it to good use.
I think the 2 days it took,
Yeah.
it didn't take long for us to
Yeah.
to get it out on the road.
So you got to test it out right away.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. Then, item number 13, request for the truck purchase recommendation.
And there's this recommendation, it's gonna be purchase the 2007 ALF rescue truck from Fort Garry Fire Trucks of Winnipeg at a cost of $100,000 on condition that it passes an Ontario MOT inspection.
Any questions or thoughts on that?
And that's from the fire department reserves, fire truck reserves?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, through the reserve, yeah.
Yeah, and everybody likes it, like, I mean,
It's pretty unanimous, yes. I had one guy who was on the fence, didn't care either way, but everybody else seems to like it out of the other 17. So
I was over it, so it's awesome.
it is some truck, yeah.
Everybody fine with that then?
Yep.
Okay, so the next one up is Rossport Fire Service for 2021. Chief, would you like to speak on that?
Certainly. So what I'm recommending here is that we just do a bylaw agreement with the Rossport Service Board till December 31st, and we just do it as a 12-month or probably 10-month trial period by the time we get it done, just to see how it goes for 2021. And then if we're happy with it and they're happy with it, then we can look at altering it up or extending what we've got. So I really don't think, the stats are there from them. 10 calls over 12 years, really, it only adds 0.6 calls a year to us, which is, we wouldn't notice one way or another, really, given the call volume that we already have. The other interesting fact that's in there is that we were attending a third of their calls already anyhow. And that's been going on for years and years, at least since before my time coming to town here. In fact, the first time I could find mention in the logbooks of us actually driving down to Rossport for a fire was 1952 or 53, I believe it was. So it's been going on for quite some time. So.
Does this include Nickel Island?
No, it does not.
No,
No, Nickel Island has never joined the service board. So.
Right.
So what would happen if there was a fire on Nickel Island?
Basically, we wouldn't go to that.
But I mean-
Not through this agreement, anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
like, I'm having a problem with it, cause first of all, $2,100 doesn't do anything for the municipality of Schreiber, really.
Yeah.
If we respond to a fire out of Rossport, and I think we should,
Yeah.
but not under an agreement. But say we put a situation out there, say 5 firemen, fire people
Yeah.
show up at the fire hall, and you decide to send them to a fire in Rossport, and then we get a fire call in Schreiber, and now nobody shows up
Yes,
for the,
so,
like, I mean, if we're not under contract, would it not be better?
well, since they've disbanded their team, there's no way for me to have a mutual aid or an automatic aid agreement with something that doesn't exist. So to cover ourselves, you know, through like our WSID and things like that, I've gotta have something on paper that says, yes, we can go. Now, to waylay your fear of what happens if only 5 people show up or we don't have enough, it would be the same thing we signed in the contract with Dooley's in Kilrain, or the same thing we signed with Paris Bay, and that is, if we don't, we'll have it in the amendment, or sorry, not the amendment, but the appendix to the bylaw, whereas if we don't have enough people to go, the response is either not gonna happen or it's gonna be delayed. You know, or another line that's in it is, if there's already an existing emergency situation or there's simultaneous calls, that again, the response is gonna either not happen or it's gonna be delayed.
Our first priority would be Schreiber.
Would be Schreiber, that's right. So that is in the draft.
Can I ask, Chief, how did you come up with 2,100, or was there?
What we did is I went down to Rossport and I took a look through what their costs were on operating. They want to shut the heat off to that fire hall down there. And so their budget is small. They get a budget that they ask the province for, and the province collects the money now from the service board population, and then pays it to the service board. So I asked them what it cost them to run that hall. They gave me a figure, and I divided it up. So the cost was $3,000. It cost them to heat it. So I gave the figure of the $1,500 plus the insurance on the truck, came up with the $2,100. And I told Rossport, because they would still be maintaining their equipment, we wouldn't be using Schreiber's equipment. It would be the equipment from their truck, their hose trailer, their pumps that already exist, that they should put the remaining $900 into a equipment reserve fund to maintain that equipment.
Okay.
So that's how we came up with that number.
John, do you have any affiliation with Pace Plat? I know you provided training there.
Yes, we do have I would call it a verbal agreement with Pays Plat right now. We do have one member of our fire prevention team that lives in Pays Plat, and we are taking care of their truck for them, and that right now, like we're doing the maintenance and then maintaining the equipment down in Pays Plat for them.
Would you ever respond to Pace Plat?
Oh yes, that happens, and it's happened twice in 2020.
Okay, so having equipment in Rossport Fire Hall would be beneficial for your team?
It would be beneficial for our team, and really it would expand our recruiting area, because we'd be able to take in anybody that ever were to move there. We've already got 2 guys, we've had 3, we have 2 guys that live in Kilrain Township, White Sand and Sealam, that are on the department already. So it would help us there too, by putting, you know, having that station join in, at least to trial it out until the end of the year. Effectively, what we're trying to prove is it worth merging the fire team in Rossport and maybe Pays Plat into a single department.
Right. So this would be like a trial basis, right?
Correct, yeah.
We
I've
could,
put in the draft that it should end on December 31st, 2021.
And at that time,
We could renegotiate or decide to walk away from it completely.
Any other questions then?
I think it sounds good to try it for a year. What's the harm?
Any other comments?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't think it's enough?
Well, no, I don't think it's enough, but I mean,
What is?
What are we gonna do if there's a fire in Nickel Island? I think we're gonna respond. I mean, I think you have to, but you got a contract with Rossport, you don't got one with Nickel Island, and people are gonna ask you, why did you respond to Nickel Island? Like, I don't know.
I believe that, maybe even Dan could answer this a little better than I could, but I believe since they've never joined, Nickel Island's always been private property. And that even the Rossport fire team didn't really go on to Nickel Island. You know, and they tried to work that out a few times, and that kind of fell apart on them. So the people in Nickel Island don't pay into the Rossport Service Board and don't pay that portion of the whatever the tax is for the fire. So, and if they live there, they're already well aware of it, that they're not getting that service.
Yeah, they were never part of, like, the community designated as Rossport, which had a local services board, like a small government. And fire was one of the powers that we had in Rossport. We tried to get Nickel Island to join Rossport, so they'd be under the umbrella of the local services board, and they always said, no, we want to be standalone. So part of that was, well, you don't have fire service, you don't pay into it. We can't go there and be covered under WSIB and so on. And they understood that if there was a fire there, they were on their own.
How much does the local services board in Rossport charge a household for fire service?
I couldn't give you an accurate number on that, Doug, because it's all lumped into provincial land tax.
Oh.
Yeah, so you get one bill for fire, and water, and recreation, which are the powers that the LSB has.
Right.
So you're taxed through the province. So
And I would think that if Nickel Island wants to cover it, the onus is on them to ask for it. But obviously they've been asked before and they've said no, so.
Now, that said, we do have a draft fees bylaw that does, one of the things in there is individual property owner contract for somebody outside the township. So if they did want to purchase it from us, we would have to then, at that point, figure out what that bill would be.
On an individual basis.
On an individual basis.
Well, what does everyone think? You think this is a good idea for a pilot project? Yeah, Dave? Dan?
well, I live in Rossport, so you know, it's hard for me to. I mean, to me, it's beneficial, but that's not my role. The role is it beneficial to the municipality, and that's why I asked Jan, is it beneficial to have extra equipment in an empty Rossport fire hall? You know, will that provide some kind of a service for the municipality, like for highway calls or to service Pace Plat?
Yes, I believe it would.
Yeah, so
if we pre-position that truck there, you know, and
Yeah.
Rossport's paying the bills on it, and like I said, our guys are in Kilrain now, and
Yeah,
it'd be an easy thing to pick that truck up and take it onto the highway. At which point it becomes something we can bill to the MTO.
Yeah.
So it has a possibility to generate actual revenue.
Okay, thanks.
Doug, what do you feel?
Well, I'm a little concerned about, you know, the personnel, like having 5 or 6 firefighters out of town and something happens here, like, I mean, regardless of how much usable equipment there is in Rossport, it's, you know, some people out there might expect to have exactly the same service as we do. You know, they're just gonna think that way once they hear about something like this, and so, I don't know. If Jan thinks it could work, then I'll go along with that.
Okay. Any other comments then? And you feel we should enter into this agreement on a pilot basis? Okay. Majority is all right with that? Okay. All right, thanks, Chief. Next up are the next three aqua reports. Were there any questions on any of those?
I have one question on the water report, and there was a couple of alarms for low temperature alarms in the reservoir. My question is, how do you overcome that? Like it seems like an awful big reservoir of water to heat. So, and it's maintained at 3 degrees Celsius, I believe.
They have to go up to the.
Well, I think it's in the report, but that's what I picked up on. So if you're below that and you get a low temperature water, low water temperature, what happens? Crank up the heat?
It gives you enough differential that you have a few hours time to go and correct the issue.
And then how do you correct it? You just crank up the heat, or?
Generally, when it's low, does that, and I think it just, the power's cut off to it, so they have to just go and get the breaker turned back on. There's an adjustment in the breaker. I'm not an electrician, so.
Okay, but that's for, the breaker would be for heat?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of heaters would be in that?
There's like pipes inserted into the storage tower.
Okay.
That has heaters inside those, so that if you had to work on them, you could
circulating?
take them out without taking, and then there's there's circulation
Right.
in the tank.
Okay, no, I was curious how that worked.
So much engineering behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
Always wonder, and you just see like the tower, and then you think about all these logistical issues that the engineers have to face.
Especially in January.
So we have an addition concerning Aqua about the flow meters at the water treatment plant. Do we have any questions on that?
Of course, it's a recommendation to authorize Aqua at a higher automation now to install flow meters at the water treatment plant at a cost of $81,499.48.
Now, having said that, we're going to have a discussion with the, I guess, district manager, is he?
Yes.
On Thursday concerning this. As the price has kind of gone up since we first talked about it. And I guess they're talking about administration fees and that. So we've asked for a meeting with Jeff so we can discuss this. So whether it will actually be that, or if we can negotiate something different, that's our goal at this point. We're not very happy with the additional expenses that they're asking us to undertake.
It's about a $7,000 administrative fee. And but overall, this has always been the complicated thing with the flow meters. This was initially identified as something we required in the capital budget last year. So it's again it's required for compliance sake, and wish there were other options, but it has to be done.
We know we have to do it, but we're just questioning why the
The administration fees.
Yeah, so we're gonna work with Jeff on that and see what we can come up with. Alrighty, any other questions on that? Okay, next up is question period. Any questions? Anything online, nothing there. Communications. Anything outstanding that anybody would like to talk about?
There's a couple there on insurance, the
Yes.
cost of insurance, you may want to support.
Yes, I think we do, and we're going to, one of our delegations, we want to talk about that. Because it is definitely an issue with all municipalities, especially, you know, when there was, in our case, there were 3 insurance companies were going to quote on insurance, and then 2 of them backed out, and we were left with only 1. And the increase is, you know, it's getting to be almost, we can't afford it. And we're not the only municipality, so I agree, we would like to support this resolution from them, and we're going to try and get everybody, you know, together across the province to try and deal with this, because it's getting out of hand.
Absolutely. About a 20 grand increase or so each year, so.
Yeah. I think when I first started here, it was 60 something, and now it's gonna hit 100. I mean, wow, we just can't continue on this road, and we're not the only municipality facing this, so.
Yeah, there was 2 requests for resolution
Yes.
support there, 16 and 17. So.
Yeah, so, everybody in favor of supporting those resolutions?
Oh, yeah.
Then we shall go ahead and do that.
Did you wanna speak to number 5, Dave?
Yes.
In terms of this anonymous letter, so the main thing for viewers is if you're giving us any correspondence, make sure you put a name to it, phone number, some email or something, just an opportunity for us to get back to you if you have any questions. If it's an anonymous letter, there's little for us to do with an anonymous letter, and if it is directed to council, we won't put anonymous letters on our agenda. In this case, there were a couple of inquiries, so I thought I'd just clarify them. And one of the questions was about do bylaw complaints have to be complaint driven? And you know, that's not the case. We do active monitoring again for parking and all. If we see issues, we like to address it. Then again, this comes down to resources. We have one bylaw officer who works in bylaw part-time, and just based on that, there's just simply not enough time for us to deal with every single bylaw issue that we see. What we do is we prioritize issues on a complaint-driven basis, especially if there's a health and safety circumstance or problem. We'll definitely put that up. If there's something health and safety, where there's nails left out on someone's lawn or something like that, we will respond to that right away. Other than that, it's is there a genuine correlation to a neighbor's a disruption to a neighbor's enjoyment of their property? Like if it's something pertaining to noise or whatever it may be, is it a genuine disruption to your property? You know, we have to take all of that into consideration and prioritize the bylaw issues that we address in that kind of order. Now, in terms of when we're looking around, if there's some sort of blatant or obvious violation, again, you have to keep in mind that the bylaw officer is human, and you know, of course, you're going to see you may see a violation on your street, but when they go out to do a tour, they may not go down that street. It's in terms of our approach, the approach is to ensure that there is fairness in what we're doing here. But when it comes to recognizing every single parking violation on the street at a certain time, I can see that there may be an issue of one car in an area that's maybe not illuminated as well. We try to avoid these kinds of issues, and we try to again try to address everything as far as humanly possible. There's also the question when it comes to vehicles and campers. And the question is, how come they're on some lots and not on other lots? The main thing here is, again, vehicles on vacant residential lots. And that's the key thing, residential lots, vacant residential lots. If it's on a commercial lot, vehicles can park in commercial lots, should that commercial lot be an actual parking lot. So hopefully that answers that question. I don't know if council has any other specific questions stemming out of that letter that I may have not addressed. It's always a tricky thing with bylaw. We want to enforce all the legislation that is passed at this table. At the same time, we understand that it can be a touchy subject to a lot of people, and we want to keep it as professional as we can keep it.
Any other comments, questions? Anything else under communications?
I just have one on number 2, the next bridge letter.
Yep.
And just looking through it, I just thought there might be an opportunity there on page 3, when they're asking if you have a project or initiative that supports community safety, culture, or the environment in the right-of-way communities, please consider applying for a community investment fund. Is that something that you might be able to apply for?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
They have a fund that they give out to each community that they're coming through. We've tapped into part of that already for the harvest food cupboard.
Okay.
And there is a bit of money left there, but I believe this is a little different. And I'll be glad to get in touch with the gentleman I've been talking to and see if there's any further funding available to us.
Okay, good.
Okay. And I guess next up is an addition, the Walker's Lake green space. We had a request from an individual at Walker's Lake that we look into developing a piece of property up there for a playground, I guess, and he asked that it be put on the agenda just for consideration. And I believe that if there would be any funding available, that would have to come out of the budget process as we go through our budget to see what we have and where we can apply that funding to. Any questions or comments on that?
I think it was a good answer.
I mean, we can't, we certainly can't make a decision right here this evening. There are other projects that people have brought forward too, so we have to take them all into consideration. But
could you task Dominic with a rough estimate of what this would cost the municipality to do the work?
to develop that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the surveying, they're just like rough.
Yeah.
Yep, in terms of estimates like that, if you wanted to do a survey, it would be, survey comes in around $7 or $8 grand. And then from that, the next level is, if it's just gonna be sod, we got pricing for on Scotia Street, and it was about, Moni, if you recall, about $4 or $5 grand, right?
It was about $5 grand for
$5
the
grand
both.
For both.
For both, yeah.
And when it comes to the playground equipment, that really depends on what you want. I mean, you got some things that are fairly on the cheaper side. Things like swings and all aren't too pricey. We have a booklet from a supplier we can take a look at, so we can put that together if
Yeah,
you want
just
to
like
know.
a
Just a
rough
rough
number,
estimate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ballpark figure.
Why would it necessarily have to be surveyed in the first place?
That's just to confirm that if we are developing that property, that we do.
I mean, you can hardly go wrong, there's a road on two sides of it, and a
You need
lake
to-
on the other.
But the problem is that property where that bush starts, where's the line,
Yep.
Yeah.
right? Because someone owns that bush down to the lake. That's a
right.
separate property. And then there's the house right there too. Do we know where the property, all I know is the property lines up at Walker's Lake are a mess.
Yeah.
So,
Was is this park area up into where those two roads intersect? Right up
yeah, it would be
into
on
that
the corner, like where they
Yeah.
put the flower pot. But you still wanna know exactly.
You're gonna develop it, you wanna know where it is.
Kids are playing on the park, who's to say they're gonna run, fall, and now they're on someone else's property and they've hurt themselves.
And that's a good point too, right? If the kids are playing there and all, right, if it's used as a park, it may be seen as a issue for some people who are just adjacent to that property, and, you know, they may not necessarily want people, like members of the public, coming onto their property. And in general, if we're gonna be using money to improve any plot of land, we wanna make sure that it is our land, otherwise someone will be getting free sod, essentially, on their private lot. But yeah, we can put together at least a rough outline of what we think this would cost based on the plan. That way you'll be able to determine what you're looking at in terms of the price tag when it comes to the 2021 capital budget.
Are there no survey stakes up at Walker's Lake at all?
There is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there are, but we don't know how.
Well, you would have to
accurate.
think they're where they all should be.
They're not.
I
The
remember-
problem is that they're where they should be, but things aren't where they should be.
I remember when we
Like
did that road.
houses.
Oh, but if there's, if the property's been surveyed already, you know,
I don't know if that one
they
has.
can be found.
Just tie into it.
Well, once you, you know, like, you're gonna spend $7,000 to survey, maybe you're better off to spend some money to find out where the surveys are already.
We can, I think our public works can find the stakes if they're there, right? But we still have to check it out, make sure that it's accurate.
Yeah, I'd just for that area, I'd highly recommend that you do get a survey done, just because we don't want to have any legal disputes over public land versus private land, and especially when I looked at that property, that there seems to be a lot of other properties that are adjacent to it.
Maybe,
Yep.
excuse me, maybe you could give us a map at the next meeting.
Yep.
With showing where exactly it is.
Yep, I can do that.
Then we know what we're talking
Yep.
Yep, that's a good point.
about.
Alrighty. Any other comments or questions on that? Then, we have no other business, so I guess we will, resolution number 11-21, moved by Councillor Mullen, seconded by Councillor Staffier, that the closed meeting resume at this time. All in favor? Carried, thank you.
You've probably seen all the same maps in that area. Yeah.
Didn't get very far on the closed.
Photocopy napkins.
2/5 of the way.